Hi everyone, Allison Chariez here, founder of the AC7 Group and career leadership and high performance coach. Hey, thanks for joining this week. I really appreciate it. Every week, what we do, if you're new here, is I go over questions or topics that you guys have posed to me over the course of the week. And this week, the topic of forgiveness came up, and I'm going to be talking about forgiveness as a whole, in general, I should say. But this particular question was forgiveness at work, or forgiving a company, or specific people within a company. And in America, it's not talked about a lot, especially in leadership classes and leadership training, in management training. The idea of forgiveness in America, and not just America, actually, it's actually statistics have shown and studies have shown that this is an issue across the world, really, where forgiveness in the workplace is considered a sign of weakness, or a sign of allowing certain behaviors, um, a lack of control, if you will. So, as you can imagine, forgiveness is not really a subject that comes up a lot in leadership training or management training or executive training, um, or any type of training, really, at that for that matter, at work. So, I want to begin with what forgiveness is not, because why I think it's such a it's a topic that's not discussed a lot in the workplace, is because I believe there's a lot of misconceptions surrounding what forgiveness really is. And as I said, people look at forgiveness as lack of control, or a sign of condoning a certain behavior, but that's not what it is. That's what forgiveness is not. All right. Forgiveness is not an accepting or or condoning a certain behavior. It's not letting a person off the hook, if you will. Um, you know, there are consequences to our actions, whether we like it or not, and life is going to make sure of that. Um, and whether or not we as individuals push those consequences on the person, I mean, it's up to us, but life is going to make that happen no matter what. It's just one of those things, right? It's like a law of physics, if you will. It's just one of those things. There's consequences to your actions, whether they're intrinsic or external. So you may not physically see that the person that you need to forgive, you may not physically see them experiencing what you think they deserve, or what you think is coming to them. They may be feeling it intrinsically, so you don't know that, right? But life has a way of making sure people get people will reap the consequences of their actions. All right, so forgiveness is not letting people off the hook. It's not in accepting of a behavior. It's not condoning a behavior. What forgiveness is, it's allowing the person, and more importantly, yourself, to move on from the situation, and to move on without the relational baggage that comes with the situation, that comes with unforgiveness. Really, when you have unforgiveness, there's this relational baggage between you and the other person. So forgiveness, all it is, it's not forgetting necessarily. It's not allowing the behavior again. It's just allowing each other to move on, whether that's continuing the relationship or whether it's cutting ties. But it's allowing each other to move on without the emotional baggage behind holding a grudge. All right, so that's what forgiveness is. So at work, and I said I'm going to talk about it as a whole. But, at work, it has these consequences that people don't think about. And when I talk about these, we can interchange them between at home and at work, or with your friends, or at work. But does what unforgiveness does, it affects our ability to be present in the moment. It affects our ability to be completely present with our family, our friends, our colleagues, our coworkers, and it doesn't allow us to focus. It creates this distraction because we're so uh, you know what's the word, anxiety, like we're so stressed about this situation, we're so like, about this situation, that we're not focusing on what needs to be done. So at work we could be working on a project, but if we've got this bitterness going on with a colleague that we're working with on the project, nothing's going to get done, or it's going to get done half butt, or it's going to just not flow the way it should. It drains us, when we don't forgive, it drains us of our energy. And I don't know about you, but I'm a mama of two small kids, and I work full time, and I'm a wife, and apparently I'm a housekeeper, and all of that stuff, right? I don't have time. I don't know about you. I don't have the energy, I should say. I don't have the energy to waste on being bitter about something, or letting my thoughts and my actions um, be based on this feeling that I have about this other person. So unforgiveness drains us of our energy. It affects our ability to focus, it affects our productivity, and it drains us of energy, which is a rare commodity around my parts. And I want to do everything possible to keep as much energy as I can. Also, unforgiveness, it causes a separation. And once a separation and division, and once that separation or division occurs, especially in the workplace, it creates this like downward spiral that as it keeps going, it gets harder and harder and harder and harder to stop or to turn around, right? Or to reverse. So, when we are angry at work at a colleague or a coworker, many of us, the first thing we do, or one of the first things we do, is we go to the kitchen, or we go to the water cooler, or we go to the break room, or we go wherever, or to our cell phones, and we start texting another colleague. And we do it to try to justify why we're angry at this person and why we're right and they're wrong. And we try to get this person on our side. And it's like verification of our feelings. And we do this as humans. We need our emotions and our feelings verified. We need it, to be recognized. And we do this. And what happens is, as soon as we do that, now we're getting the other person that we're texting or calling or talking to about this other person. Now we're gossiping, right? And now we're getting them involved. And now, because they only have one side of the story, now they have this preconception about this other person, which is going to cause animosity, bitterness, mistrust with those two. So you can see how this can become a domino effect, and it becomes harder and harder and harder down the line to reverse the effects of unforgiveness in this context. So how do we forgive? Well, first of all, forgiveness is not usually a one-time deal, and it's not something that usually happens instantaneously. Depending on the severity of the wrong that has been done to you, forgiveness can take years, sometimes decades, depending on, what's happened, depending on how much animosity has been built up throughout the years. It can take a really long time. I mean, I know people decades later who have not forgiven someone for doing them wrong. And it's created, hostile environments unnecessarily. But so how do we start the forgiving process? First we need to identify, I think, and this is hard, we need to identify our part in the situation. A lot of times we're like, oh, well, this person did me wrong. this person did this to me and I didn't deserve it and I didn't do anything wrong and blah, 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 blah. And in some cases it's true. I'll give you that. In some cases, whatever somebody did to you is completely unfounded. Maybe you didn't even know the person and they did something horrendous to your family. But in a lot of situations, especially in the work environment, usually there's a two-way thing going on. All right. So let's try to recognize where's my part? What's my part in this situation? Did I maybe say something to this person? Did I do something? Did I forget to include them in something? Ask them and then apologize. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Apologies can go so far. Apologies can reverse years of bitterness just by a sincere, I'm sorry. I don't know what I did, but whatever I did, I'm sorry. If you can tell me what I did, I will do my best to rectify the situation, and I'm sorry. Number two, we need to forgive ourselves. All right. And even if we didn't do anything in this particular situation, or whatever situation that you're thinking of right now, um, so we get the most defensive about wrongs done to us when we are guilty or feel guilty that we have done that wrong to somebody else. So the number two thing that we need to do, the second thing that we need to do is forgive ourselves. And it's hugely important because how can you forgive other people if you can't forgive yourself? I mean, you should be priority, right? You're number one. If you can't forgive yourself, you're not going to be able to forgive other people. And you're not going to be able to role model that forgiveness to your family or to your team at work. So step number one, identify your part in the situation and apologize. I'm sorry goes a long way. Number two, forgive yourself. You're human. Everybody here, everybody on earth, we're all human and we make mistakes. No one is perfect. So forgive yourself. There's so much more on this topic. And, I try to keep these to about 10 to 15 minutes. There's so much more on this topic that I would love to get into. And maybe at a future date I will. Or if you want to talk about it, hey, send me an email, Allison@theac7group.com. Allison with 2 L's and an I. Or, send me a Facebook message. If you liked what you heard today, please like or subscribe to our YouTube channel and peruse on over to Facebook and like the Facebook page as well. And at any point, if you want to talk about something else or there's something about this that sparked a question, let me know. I'd love to talk about it. All right. Again, thanks so much for joining in this week. I really appreciate everyone that watches. And go out there and be a light. Thanks, everyone. Bye.